In today's episode, I am extremely excited to share an amazing story about perseverance and strength and how we should never allow anything to stop us from reaching our goals. Incredibly excited for our fourth episode, which is featuring one of our Pherform members, Miss Pragya. She has been with us now since June. So we're going to tell her story, which is absolutely amazing. So she has successfully done 26 Himalayan treks plus a bunch of other different treks and programs. She has trekked between Kanchenjunga and Mount Everest. She's had 14 broken bones, a skull wide open, fingers made out of silicone, knees put together with nuts and bolts, burnt skin, purple face, nerves turning blue, hypermobile elbows, wrists, and months of physio. So, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you. There's so much to unravel in terms of the treks that you've done and your history. And, you know, I remember when we first met, one of the things you did was you pulled your finger backwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah, that's my way of creeping people out when I meet them for the first time. Hey, can you do that?
Yeah. I mean, literally, this is as far as back as I can pull mine.
This is as far as I can go in all the fingers, which is good and bad.
Yeah. So kind of our story started as like, obviously you were just coming off of rehab and then us talking about the rehab. And,
yes.
You know, before we get into what happened with your latest climb, give us an idea of your background, you know, where you're from, what do you do?
Well, I am born and raised in India itself.
Okay.
And I did my schooling there with my parents, and then I moved out for my higher studies. And I've studied in a military school. I was physically always really active. I was a part of the NCC. I was a zonal level volleyball player in school. So something always kept me going, so which was pretty good. And the city that I came from is not very big into girls being into sports.
And what city are you from?
I'm from a city in the northern part. So
Okay.
It's a city very close to where Taj Mahal is.
Got it. Okay.
I've always been physically extremely active. My parents are not into that much of travel, or like they wouldn't go out and just explore. Like we would go out for family holidays. You know how it is. Like there are summers, and then you go out, you see your family, you see your relatives, you go out for like a week or so. But that's it. Like nothing.
And you have siblings?
Related. I do have two brothers.
Okay, older or younger?
Yeah, so one is elder and one is younger
Okay.
to me. So yeah, we've always been really normal and basic as it can be, like a regular Indian family. But so I moved out for my design studies, which were my higher studies. I moved out of my city and went out to Bombay, which is a different city in India. Studied there, and ever since I've been out of my house. So I was 16 when I moved out, and then I've actually never then stayed with my parents. But then I've traveled to almost 50-60 countries for work now. Lived in various almost 16-17 countries again.
Okay, so let's kind of cover that. So you've traveled to 60 different countries because of work.
For work, yeah. I'm an art curator.
Yeah.
So I was into buying and sourcing. I was into supply chain. I've lived in Hong Kong before. Before this tenure, I was back here in 2013 or so for a very short period of time, actually for 10 months or so. And I've lived in countries which are very weird. So I've lived in countries as Mali in Africa, Burkina Faso in Africa, Egypt for a while, Laos in Asia, which is pretty close to Thailand.
And all of these places that you were moving was with the same company? Were you working with the government?
With the same company.
Okay.
No, I wasn't with the government. I was a startup, a starting team member of one of the big conglomerates in the country.
Okay.
And they were into establishing factory bases in all of these smaller countries for artisans, so for people who do arts and crafts, and helping them establish bases. So I was actually helping these tribal communities there in their own work.
Okay.
So, for example, Africa, there's this Maasai tribe which is very rich in their crafts. They do beadworks, they do beautiful garments and hats. So I'm actually helping all of these communities set up their bases. So more like a Robin Hood thing. So
I think it's super important to keep the heritage of a culture alive, and part of that is through the art and jewelry and
that's what I studied. That's what I always wanted to do, and that's what I've done most of my life. So, but that got me into traveling for sure. I always had a knack for traveling. I would love to, like, it's very uncommon in India for a girl to be traveling solo, but I was doing that when I was 21 or so. Like, my parents were super freaked, but thankfully they come from a very, very liberal background, and so do I, so they were pretty chilled about it. Like, as long as you just stay safe and you keep yourself in your boundaries, you know what you're doing. So I used to, like, most of my treks I've done just by myself. So there was a group of unknown people.
Okay.
I never had friends, but there would be like 3-4 people who'd be joining me. I'd never met them later, but just go by myself, stay out of the mobile coverage area for 15 days and just be like that. Like, my frozen river walks were like that. So there's this northern river which actually freezes during 2 months, Jan and December.
Okay.
It just stays frozen. And it's an adventure to just walk on that frozen bed.
You're just walking up.
You just walk for 15 days. You just walk on that frozen bed. So where the river actually originates, you start walking from there,
Okay.
and then you end where the river actually ends. So yeah.
So
other than that,
when was your first, kind of looking back, do you remember when the first adventure you're like, right, I want to do something outside of my comfort zone?
well, my first adventure. So I don't come from a place where you can see hills from. So I always wanted to
You're
see
pretty
hills.
flat.
Yeah, it's completely
Okay.
it's a fairly polluted place as well, to be honest. So I always wanted to see the hills, go to the hills, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, for me, hills have been really addictive. Like, once you get there, there are some people who are addicted to sea. I probably am not a sea person that much. Like, if given a choice, I'm always run to the mountains, do whatever I want, live there, just hike up a mountain or whatever. But yeah, once I saw hills in my life, which was pretty late actually, which is when I was 16ish or so. I think I just knew, I don't know, like, I did not know that I wanted to trek, but I knew that I wanted to be close to the hills. Like, I wanted to do something for myself, like, not as work, because that's practically impossible, right? So something for myself that I wanted to do had to be with the mountains or so. Then actually I realized that I was physically in a great shape and I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I stopped playing volleyball after school. So I actually put myself through Himalayan Institute of Mountaineering and did like 6 months of course, and just learned
Just as a hobby.
carabining. Yeah, just carabining or axing or you know, all the basics. Like, we used to run 20 kilometers at a stretch, doing little stuff like that. It was really rejuvenating, and yeah, that's why I thought, why not me as well? If you're training, then may as well just
Might as well do
might
it.
as well just do it.